Alleluia. 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 Blessed are they who have kept the word with a generous heart and yield a harvest through perseverance. Alleluia. 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 The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. King Herod heard about Jesus, for his fame had become widespread, and people were saying, "John the Baptist has been raised from the dead. That is why mighty powers are at work in him." Others were saying, "He is Elijah." Still others, "He is a prophet like any of the prophets." But when Herod learned of it, he said, "It is John, whom I beheaded. He has been raised up." Herod was the one who had John arrested and bound in prison on account of Herodias, the wife of his brother Philip, whom he had married. John had said to Herod, "It is not lawful for you to have your brother's wife." Herodias harbored a grudge against him and wanted to kill him, but was unable to do so. Herod feared John, knowing him to be a righteous and holy man, and kept him in custody. When he heard him speak, he was very much perplexed, yet he liked to listen to him. Herodias had an opportunity one day when Herod, on his birthday, gave a banquet for his courtiers, his military officers, and the leading men of Galilee. His own daughter came in and performed a dance that delighted Herod and his guests. The king said to the girl, "Ask of me whatever you wish, and I will grant it to you." He even swore many things to her. "I will grant you whatever you ask of me, even to half of my kingdom." She went out and said to her mother, "What shall I ask for?" His mother replied, "The head of John the Baptist." The girl hurried back to the king's presence and made her request. "I want you to give me at once on a platter the head of John the Baptist." The king was deeply distressed, but because of his oaths and the guests, he did not wish to break his word to her. So he promptly dispatched an executioner with orders to bring back his head. He went off and beheaded him in the prison. He brought in the head on a platter and gave it to the girl. The girl, in turn, gave it to her mother. When his disciples heard about it, they came and took his body and laid it in a tomb. The Gospel of the Lord. It's good to see so many people at Mass today. We're going to be doing this noon Mass on Fridays for the foreseeable future, except, of course, when I am out of town or something, but most likely every week we're going to be doing this at noon. And today is the feast of St. Blaise, which means we are going to have the blessing of throats right, at the end of Mass. St. Blaise was an early church saint and bishop and martyr. He lived right around the time of the Emperor Constantine. So Constantine, there was something called the Edict of Milan, which basically legalized Christianity in the western part of the Roman Empire. But in the eastern part of the Roman Empire, there was still persecution that lasted for some time. And so St. Blaise was a victim of that persecution. St. Blaise was, as a bishop, he was very outspoken against some of the atrocities of the Roman Empire. And so he became targeted in the persecution. And so St. Blaise actually fled into the wilderness. And that was where many of the stories about his saintly life have originated. People say that St. Blaise was able, like St. Francis of Assisi, he was able to communicate with animals. Right? Just like St. Jerome, right? St. Jerome used to have a pet lion who he would keep around. St. Francis of Assisi, known for talking to animals, and St. Blaise was the same way. St. Blaise, before he became a priest, was a medical doctor. And so healing was his charism. So oftentimes when he would see animals hurt or injured, he would heal them. One famous story says that there was a woman whose her piglet had been stolen by a wolf, and St. Blaise heard her yelling after the wolf, and he scolded the wolf and made him come back and give the piglet back to the woman, right? Again, very similar to the life of St. Francis of Assisi. St. Blaise also, the reason why we have him for the blessing of the throats is because another miracle he performed was a young boy who was choking. And St. Blaise prayed over him, and the boy spat the food out and survived. St. Blaise, all throughout the Middle Ages, was seen as a great intercessor of the people of God, especially people enduring illnesses. Right? There are these things called the Nine Helpers, right, which arose in the Middle Ages. There were 9 saints that people would call upon for different needs for assistance. And they became very popular, especially when plagues broke out. St. Blaise was very often asked to intercede for the people in the midst of the time of the plagues. And so that is where we started having this blessing of the throats during the liturgical calendar, something we do every single year on February 3rd. Eventually, St. Blaise, he was in the wilderness for some time, and eventually he was turned in, and he endured a terrible martyrdom as witness to his faith. So he is also a martyr, right, and a leader in the faith. So it's very fitting today that even though we live in a modern secular culture, which is very skeptical of miracles, very skeptical of the stories we read in the Bible and the lives of the saints, right, what's very interesting is that so often when historians and archaeologists really dive deep into these historical sources, right, they're amazed at how accurate the Bible tends to be, and even some of these stories of the saints. Even in our modern day, we should be paying attention that there are still saints, even in the modern age, who are able to perform great miracles, similar to like you would read about in the life of St. Blaise. So we should be very cautious when we are tempted to be skeptical about these stories. St. Blaise has been exalted and enthroned as an intercessor saint for a reason. He obviously has great authority and power. So we ask for his intercession today, especially on all of the throats, which will be blessed.